I signed the loan in her name, knowing she wouldn't notice. I felt a sudden chill inside the fitting room when I recognized my husband's voice on the other side of the thin wall. He was laughing and telling his mistress how he had fooled me. Without a rush, I took out my cell phone, turned on the voice recorder, and calmly stepped out to confront them. One word from me, and his face went pale as if sheets of paper. Layla Vance was walking slowly through the shops at Willow Creek, as if she were moving through a fog. It had been a difficult day at work. She had spent the morning sorting through a huge pile of paperwork, then dealt with 3 hours of customer complaints. And over lunch, she learned that the accounting department had once again mixed up the numbers. Her head was aching, her shoulders sore, and all she wanted was to get home, take off her heels, and collapse on the sofa. But on the way, she remembered that her trench coat, which she had worn for the past 4 years, was completely worn out. The sleeves were worn out, the lining had torn along the seam, and the dark green color had faded into an unrecognizable shade. I need to get a new one, Ela thought as she turned toward the mall entrance. She usually didn't enjoy shopping, especially on a Friday evening when the mall was crowded with tired shoppers rushing to finish before closing. But today, for some reason, she felt like treating herself. Perhaps it was a premonition, or maybe just the exhaustion from a repetitive, dull routine. Work, home, work, home. Marcus, her husband, had become very distant in recent months. He would come home late, respond to questions with short answers, and leave on weekends, saying it was either a fishing trip or a night out with friends. Ela had always assumed it was stress. His job was demanding, and Marcus had always been a quiet man anyway. The automatic doors opened with a gentle hiss. Inside, the space was warm and well lit, filled with the inviting aroma of coffee from a nearby cafe and the scent of fresh pastries. People moved swiftly through the area, carrying shopping bags. Children darted between the displays, and gentle music played softly in the background. Illa reached into her purse and took out her phone to check the time. It was 6:30. She believed she still had enough time to find a code and be home by 8 o'clock. She took the escalator up to the second floor, where the clothing stores were located. She passed by the sportswear section, then the denim store, and finally stopped at a boutique she had seen many times but never entered. In the window, a mannequin displayed a beautiful navy blue coat, belted at the waist. It looked elegant yet tasteful and seemed quite expensive. Ella stepped inside. The air inside was pleasantly tinged with the scent of new fabric and a hint of perfume. The displays gleamed softly under gentle lighting. Racks held coats, jackets, and trenches in a wide array of colors and styles. She paused in front of a sleek black coat with a broad collar. Good evening. Can I assist you in finding something? A young sales associate approached her, smiling warmly, with her hair neatly pulled back. Good evening. I'd like to try on a coat, something timeless for everyday wear. Of course. What size do you wear? A size 10. The associate nodded and went to browse between the racks. Ayla strolled along the display, examining the options. This one is too bright. This one has a fur collar. Not very practical. And this brown one? No, I don't want brown. It reminds me too much of the old one. Here, take a look. The young woman returned with three coats in hand. This is a classic navy style, very elegant. This gray one has a belt. And here's a black coat with a unique cut. Notice how the shoulder line is slightly dropped. It looks very fashionable. Ela chose the navy coat. The fabric felt pleasant to the touch. Heavy, but not bulky. The shade was deep and rich, the kind that wouldn't fade or lose its luster after a few seasons. The fitting rooms are just over there. The associate pointed toward a row of stalls at the back of the store. If you need a different size or want to see more styles, just let me know, thank you. Ila headed toward the fitting area. There were three stalls side by side, each separated by thick, soft beige curtains. The first one was already in use, and a muffled woman's voice could be heard on the phone. Ila entered the second stall, hung her coat on the hook, and began removing her jacket. Gentle, instrumental music played softly in the store. She slipped out of her jacket, hung it beside her coat, straightened her blouse, which had become a little wrinkled during the day, and then put the new coat over her shoulders. She fastened the buttons. The fabric was soft and draped nicely over her figure. She looked into the mirror. It fit well. The shoulders sat properly, and the length was just right. She turned to the side, examining her silhouette, noticing it might be slightly loose around the waist, or was it simply how she felt after a long and exhausting day at work? Then, from the next fitting room, where someone had been on the phone moments earlier, a man's voice rang out, loud and confident, with a familiar tone that Illa would recognize anywhere. Stop it, baby. It's okay. I'm telling you, she won't figure it out. Illa froze in place, the hand reaching for her coat paused midway. It was Marcus, her husband, in the next fitting room at a women's clothing store. Her heart pounded painfully in her chest. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Did I imagine it? No. She knew that voice too well. She had spent 8 years living with him. She heard him every day, each morning and evening. She would recognize his voice even behind a wall or in a crowd. Why are you worried? Marcus continued, clearly speaking to someone close by. The loan is approved. The money has already been transferred to the card under her name, naturally. My credit record is damaged after that car incident, remember? But Layla's is flawless, perfectly clean. The bank didn't even do a thorough review of the documents, just a quick check for appearance. They called once, verified the details, and then transferred the funds. A sudden chill ran through Illa's entire body. Her fingers went numb, and her breathing became shallow. She carefully lowered herself onto a small poof in the corner of the fitting room, her eyes fixed blankly on the curtain that separated her from her husband's voice. A loan in her name? What does he mean? What loan? Come on. Marcus chuckled, and his laugh sounded so carefree and confident that Illa felt a wave of nausea. The signature? I told you everything was taken care of. She won't even find out. You know how she is. She doesn't pay much attention to paperwork. She trusts me with everything. I handed her some paper to sign, told her they were just forms related to my work. So she signed them without examining the documents. The bank only cares that the signature is present and the ID matches. A soft, unclear woman's voice responded, warm and playful. Illa couldn't distinguish the words, but the tone sounded flirtatious, youthful, not her own. Don't worry, sweetheart, Marcus said smoothly. Illa then heard the rustling of clothes as he shifted position. We'll be in Cancun in 2 weeks. Can you imagine? A five-star all-inclusive resort. I've already chosen the package. Now I just need to pay for it. Illa can think I'm on a business trip. She's used to it. I tell her I travel every month. Last month I told her I'd be gone for a week, and we were at the resort, remember? He chuckled again, the confident, carefree laugh of a man certain everything was going smoothly, that no one would catch him, that he was cleverer than anyone else. Illa sat very still. Her mind felt empty. Not even thoughts, just a kind of white noise like static on an old television. Without her knowledge, her name was used with a forged signature, a mistress in Cancun. The trips to Atlanta that never occurred, the conferences in Miami, she knew nothing about any of it. She remembered how Marcus had indeed left for a week a month ago. He had told her they had an important meeting, that his boss needed him there personally. She had even walked him to the door with his bag, kissed him goodbye, and said, "Be safe on the road." Yet he was heading to the beach with this woman. How much did you end up getting anyway? The woman asked more loudly this time. Illa heard her voice clearly, young, sharp, definitely under 30. 45,000, Marcus replied, for 3 years. The payments are small, only 1,500 a month. Illa wouldn't even notice. I'll just take her debit card and transfer the money to the bank, the woman thought. I'll tell her it's for utilities or something else. She never checks. $45,000. Illa closed her eyes, the amount spinning in her mind. Unbelievable, that much money. A loan she hadn't taken, a debt she was unaware of. But what if she ever discovers it? The woman's voice carried a hint of worry. What if the bank contacts her or she receives a message? She won't, Marcus responded confidently. I gave them my cell number when I signed the papers, so all the notifications go directly to me. And she doesn't go to the bank herself. I mentioned this about 3 years ago. I told her I would take care of all the bills so she wouldn't have to worry about that, right? She appreciates having such a caring husband, and I quietly oversee everything, the card, the accounts, all the finances. How much time had gone by? Seconds, perhaps a minute? Illa wasn't sure. She sat staring at the floor, unable to move. Somewhere far away, music played. Somewhere, shoppers hurried through their day, but here, in this small fitting room, her world was falling apart. Then suddenly, something shifted inside her, a sharp sensation, like a light switch flicking on. In that instant, the paralysis lifted, replaced by icy clarity. A cold, rational thought took a hold. I need to record this. I need to record what he's saying, or he'll deny everything, twist it around, and lie his way out. Alice slowly reached into her purse and took out the phone. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to stay steady. She unlocked the screen and opened the voice recording app, where a large red button was centered. She pressed it, and the phone vibrated once, starting the recording. The screen showed a black background with seconds ticking by and a pulsating red circle. Illa placed the phone on her knees, screen up, and listened carefully. Now every word mattered. Well, that's great then, Marcus was saying. So we're all set. I'll stop by your place tonight. I'm stuck at work until 9. Something about inventory or an audit, I forget which. We can relax, have some wine, watch a movie. First thing tomorrow, I'll go to the bank and transfer some money into my account, and it's a done deal. A little for the vacation and some for the dress and shoes you wanted. Remember? I remember, the woman replied with a laugh. You promised to buy them for me a month ago. Well, we'll get them tomorrow. No, we'll buy them right now. We have plenty of cash at the moment. Ela clenched her fists so tightly that her nails pressed into her palms. She was simple, naive. Her entire life had revolved around work and home. She trusted him completely and never checked. She remembered how 3 years earlier, Marcus had indeed offered to take over all their finances. He had said he wanted to help lighten her load, that she worked hard enough already, and it wasn't any trouble for him. He was often near the bank anyway, and she believed him. She felt grateful. She thought he was caring and believed it was love, but in truth, he was quietly preparing the ground, preparing to control her money, her credit, and her life. But what if she suddenly asked about the money? The woman asked again. What if she sees something leaving the account? She won't notice, Marcus scoffed. I've told you 100 times she doesn't keep track of any of it. She receives her paycheck, hands me the card, and I give her cash for small expenses. Everything else is mine. Well, technically it's ours, but she never worries about how much is in there or what's being spent. As long as there's enough for food and utilities, she doesn't pay it much mind. Ela bit her lip. This was the honest, painful truth. The ugly, humiliating truth. She hadn't really been paying attention. She trusted him, handed over her card, took cash for groceries and transportation, and never questioned anything. She believed that's what was expected, what families did when the man was the head of the household. But in reality, she had simply given him control over her life. Fine. She drew out the word. Just let's get everything done quickly. I'm tired of hiding in the shadows. I want to be able to see you normally without constantly looking over my shoulder. I know, baby. Just hold on a little longer. After the trip, I will talk to her, maybe even file for divorce. It all depends on how things go. If I can divide the condo fairly so I receive the larger portion, then I am definitely leaving. You're serious? Hope's voice sounded curious. As serious as I can be, but it will take some time. The condo is registered in both our names. We bought it during the marriage. Legally, it's split 50-50, but I believe I can manage to get 2/3. I just need to find a clever lawyer and handle things carefully. The recording kept playing. Layla sat quietly, watching the phone screen where the seconds slowly marked the passing time. 30, 45 seconds, 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and 32 seconds. All those words were seared into her memory. Every phrase felt like a nail hammered into the coffin of the marriage. She didn't cry. Tears just wouldn't come. Instead, she felt a cold, hollow emptiness, as if something vital, something alive had been ripped out from within her. Okay, let's go, the woman said. I still need to check out that dress, the red one I saw in the window. Let's go. Let's go. I'll buy you a dress that will make everyone envious, along with matching shoes and a clutch. There's plenty for everything, so don't worry. The curtain of the neighboring fitting room rustled. Illa paused the recording and saved the file. Her own voice had gone on for more than 2.5 minutes, over 150 seconds. Proof, she thought. Slowly, she rose from the poof. Her legs felt like cotton, but she forced herself to stand. She took off her coat, hung it back up, put on her jacket, grabbed her purse, checked that her phone was in her pocket, took a deep breath, exhaled, then gently pulled back the fitting room curtain and stepped out. Marcus was standing a few feet away. Next to him was a woman with fair skin, Tiana, in her late 20s, dressed in a short black dress and high heels. She had bright makeup, red lipstick, long manicured nails, and gold hoop earrings. She was beautiful, young, and well groomed. She was laughing at something, her head thrown back, while Marcus looked at her with a smile Illa hadn't seen in a very long time. Illa moved forward slowly and carefully. Marcus turned at the sound of her footsteps and suddenly stopped. His smile disappeared completely, as if wiped away. His eyes widened and his mouth barely parted. He froze, literally as if his body had stiffened. His face took on a waxy appearance, as if all the blood had suddenly drained from it. Tiana also fell silent, quickly shifting her gaze from Illa to Marcus and back again. Illa, he finally managed to say, his voice rough and unfamiliar. What? What are you doing here? Illa looked at him with total calmness, a steady and long look as though she was seeing him for the very first time. Then she raised her phone, its screen still lit up, showing an audio file with a timestamp. 2.5 minutes. I recorded it, she said softly, almost like a whisper. But in that quiet moment, the word rang out sharply like a gunshot. Marcus froze in place. If he had been pale before, now he looked as if his face was ash gray. His lips trembled slightly. What? He mumbled. Record what? Although his expression clearly showed, he understood perfectly. Tiana took a step back, her eyes moving quickly between them. Illa remained silent. She simply stood and looked at her husband, the man she had been with for 8 years, the one she had trusted and loved, who now seemed like a stranger. Then she turned and headed for the exit. She passed the sales associate who was asking if she liked the coat or planned to buy it, but Illa made no reply. She walked past the racks, the displays and the mirrors, without looking back. Her steps were steady, her back held high. Behind her, she could hear Marcus's voice, full of confusion and fear, almost begging. Marcus called out, Illa, Illa, wait, stop, let's talk. It's not what you think. She didn't halt or turn around. She kept moving straight ahead, through the store toward the escalator leading outside. The automatic doors opened smoothly, and cold evening air hit her face. There was a tightening in her throat, but she refused to let herself cry. Only after the taxi pulled away did Illa finally breathe out. Her hands were still trembling. She looked at her phone, where the audio file was saved and recorded, proof that her life had just fallen apart, and at the same time, proof that she now knew the truth. Illa entered the condo and locked the door securely with all the deadbolts. Her hands continued to shake as she kicked off her shoes and hung her jacket on the hook in the foyer. The condo was quiet, empty, and cold. She had left that morning without turning on the heat. Now the silence felt strange, almost as if she hadn't come home, but had entered a set from her past life. She walked into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and only then felt herself completely fall apart. The knot in her throat grew tight, her breathing became uneven. Tears started to stream down her face, bitter and burning. Illa covered her face with her hands and cried openly, sobbing as if she were a child. 8 years of pain, released all at once. 8 years spent with a man she thought she knew, only to realize she never truly did. 8 years filled with trust, caring, and shared dreams. She remembered the day she met him at a mutual friend's birthday celebration. Marcus had appeared steady, gentle, and serious, never the sort to speak thoughtlessly. He had pursued her lovingly, flowers, movies, evening walks. A year later, he proposed. 6 months after that, they celebrated a modest but heartfelt wedding surrounded by close friends and family. And now she found herself alone, with him unseen but present in her mind, his words careless and mocking, the lies about business trips, divorce plans, and dividing their condo. To her, it all sounded the same. She wiped her tears with her hand, stood up, and headed toward the closet. She needed to gather herself. She needed to think clearly. Tears wouldn't fix anything. She opened the bottom drawer of the dresser where they kept important papers. From inside, she pulled out a folder labeled Important. Inside the box were their passports, their marriage certificate, the condo deed, and some old bank statements. Hila dumped everything onto the table and began sorting through it. Her passport, Marcus's passport, the marriage license, the condo purchase agreement. Where else could the papers be? She remembered that Marcus always kept certain envelopes in the top drawer of his desk. She had never intruded into his belongings before, believing everyone deserved privacy. But now there was no time for hesitation. Illa walked over to the desk and opened the drawer. Inside, she found pens, notebooks, receipts, paper clips, and a sealed white envelope. She picked it up and turned it over. Nothing was written on it. Carefully, she tore it open and emptied the contents. A loan agreement, her name, her ID details, the amount, $45,000, and the term 3 years. At the bottom, there was a signature. Ella examined it closely. The signature resembled hers, but it wasn't quite right. The letters were slightly larger, and the pressure was more forceful. He had forged it. She felt sick to her stomach. Slumping into a chair, she clutched the agreement. There it was in black and white, the proof. He had really borrowed money in her name, forged her signature, and collected the funds. Ella picked up her phone, looked up the bank's number on their website, and made a call. After some rings, an automated voice asked her to press numbers to choose a service. She pressed 0 to speak with an operator. Good evening, Fidelity Bank. My name is Denise. How can I assist you? A friendly female voice asked. Good evening. My name is Layla Vance. I want to check if a loan has been taken out in my name. I can look that up for you. Please provide your social security number and date of birth. Ella filled in the required information. There was a pause as the other end typed on their keyboard. Then the voice confirmed, yes, there is indeed a consumer loan in your name. The amount is $45,000. The loan was issued on October 23rd, just 3 days ago. 3 days prior, Ella closed her eyes and it felt like only moments had passed. She hadn't even had time to spend all the money yet. She asked, can I contest this loan? I didn't sign for it. The signature isn't mine. She explained her situation, hoping for help. The representative responded, in that case, you should visit a bank branch with your ID and report the fraud. We will perform a signature analysis. If it's confirmed that the signature is fake, the loan will be canceled and the case will be handed over to law enforcement. Saila asked, how soon can I do this? The answer was, you can come any business day. The analysis usually takes between 5 and 10 days. She was advised to go first thing in the morning, preferably when the bank opens, to avoid waiting. All right, thank you, Illa said. The representative replied, you're very welcome. Call us if you have any questions. Illa hung up, knowing she would visit the bank early the next day, but she realized that was not enough. She also needed to go to the police. She needed to document everything officially, so we couldn't find a way to avoid responsibility. She opened her phone's browser, typed in fraud report, police form sample, and quickly reviewed the instructions. It was straightforward. She had to describe what happened, attach evidence, and include all relevant details. Tomorrow morning, her plan was to visit the bank first, then head to the police station. It was almost 8:00. Marcus could return at any moment. Illa did not want to see him. Not now. Not while her emotions were boiling inside, threatening to break free. She stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and sipped it slowly, trying to settle her nerves. Then she went back to the bedroom, grabbed her gym bag from the closet, and began packing. A few changes of clothes, jeans, a sweater, pajamas, her makeup bag, phone charger, documents, and the loan agreement. She wouldn't stay here overnight. She planned to go to her sister's house. Emily had always said, if you ever need me, just come. A lock clicked in the front door. Ela froze in place. Marcus had come home. She heard him taking off his shoes, hanging up his jacket, then his footsteps moving toward the bedroom. The door opened. Marcus stood in the doorway, pale, confused, and feeling guilty. He looked at her, then at the bag and the scattered papers on the table. Illa, he began in a soft voice. Let's talk, please. She stayed silent, simply standing and watching him. The man who had been her husband just yesterday had become a stranger today. Marcus continued, taking a step closer. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. I didn't want to betray you. It just happened. It just happened. Layla's voice was calm and steady. You took out a loan in my name, forged my signature, lied about business trips, cheated and planned to divorce me and sue for the condo, and that just happened. Marcus winced, as if in pain. I wasn't planning on a divorce. I only said that to get her off my back. Look, that girl, Tiana, doesn't really mean anything. It was simply a fleeting distraction, a moment of Tiana's. But you are my wife, my family. $45,000 for such a distraction. Illa took a step closer to him. Do you honestly believe I am that naive? No, of course not. I don't think you're stupid. I just lost my way. I was buried in debts. You understand. Old debts from last year. I needed money urgently, and my credit was maxed out. They refused to give me a loan. So I thought if it was in your name, I wanted to ask, but I feared you wouldn't understand or would refuse. Of course, I would have refused. Layla's voice suddenly cut in, shouting because this was fraud. It was my credit history, my name, my money that I would have to pay back, and you didn't even ask me. Marcus lowered his head. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong, but I'll pay everything back. I promise I will make the payments myself. You won't even notice them. Shut up. Illa felt a burning anger swelling inside her, a wave of pure fury rising. Just shut up. I recorded the entire conversation from beginning to end. You claimed I wouldn't understand. Because I was simple and naive, you were laughing at me with your mistress, and you were planning a trip to Cancun using my money. He looked up, his eyes full of fear. Illa, please don't do anything reckless. Let's try to sort this out between us without involving others. Others? Do you mean the police? Why jump to that so quickly? We're family. We can fix this. No, Marcus, we can't. I'll go to the bank and the police tomorrow. I'm reporting fraud and I'm filing for divorce too. He went even paler. Illa, don't wait. Let's talk about this. I promise I'll change. No more mistakes, no more women. Just you and me like before. She shook her head. It won't be the same as it was. You've destroyed everything with your own hands. Marcus took another step forward, reaching out as if to touch her shoulder. But Illa pulled back. Don't touch me, she said softly. I'm packing my belongings and leaving for a few days. I need some time to think. Where are you headed? That's none of your concern. She zipped her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and grabbed her phone and papers. Marcus stood in the middle of the room, feeling helpless and confused. Illa walked past him without a word. Illa, please. His voice broke. Don't leave like this. Let's at least have a calm conversation tomorrow morning. She stopped at the door and looked back. Tomorrow morning, I'll be at the bank and then the police station. If you want to talk, you can speak with the detective. Then she left. Outside was dark and cold. Illa took out her phone and dialed her sister's number. Imani answered on the third ring. Hey girl, what's going on? Imani, can I come over and stay the night? Of course. What's wrong? You sound upset. I'll tell you later. I'm about to head out now. Okay, I'll be waiting. Do you have your key? Yes, then hurry over. I'll put the kettle on. Illa flagged down a taxi, got into the back seat and closed her eyes. Her entire body was aching from exhaustion and stress, but the worst part was the emptiness inside, like something had been burned away to only ashes. Amani lived on the other side of town in an older apartment building. Illa took the elevator up to the 6th floor and rang the doorbell. Amani answered immediately, tall and fair-skinned, wearing a house coat and fuzzy slippers. Come in. Come in, she said, stepping aside to let Illa enter. Lord, you look pale. What happened? Illa stepped into the living room, sank onto the sofa, and only then realized she couldn't hold back her feelings anymore. She started talking about the mall, the fitting room, the recording, the loan, the mistress, everything. Amani listened quietly without interrupting, her face becoming more serious with each word. When Illa finished, she sighed deeply. Oh, Layla, she said softly. I always suspected something was wrong with him, but I thought it was just my intuition playing tricks. And now I have just discovered I lived with a fraud for 8 years, Illa said bitterly, giving a small, strained laugh. For 8 years, I trusted him completely, handed over my paycheck, never asked where the money went, and believed every word he said. Imani sat closer and gently placed her arm around her sister's shoulders. Tomorrow morning, we'll go to the bank together and then to the police. I'm with you. Don't worry. That crook will pay for everything. I'm scared. Illa admitted quietly. Scared I won't be able to handle it, that he'll twist things, lie, or shift the blame onto me. He won't get away with it. You have the recording, and you also have the loan agreement with his forged signature. The analysis will prove it. He's finished, girl, and you did the right thing not to panic. You recorded everything. Ella nodded in agreement. Imani was right. She had the proof. Now she just needed to act. They talked late into the night, staying up until midnight. Imani prepared tea, brought out cookies, and gently reassured her sister, while Ella shared everything that had built up over the years. She talked about how Marcus had gradually pulled away, how he had become distant, how he no longer seemed to care about her life. She explained that she had attributed it all to stress, work, and circumstances. She admitted to ignoring the small signs, the faint smell of unfamiliar perfume, the calls he hung up when she was nearby, the many late nights. I knew, but I didn't want to face it, Ela said, staring into her cup of cold tea. I thought if I ignored it, everything would somehow sort itself out. But that's not how it works, Imini gently responded. When there's a problem, you need to confront it, not pretend everything's okay. I understand that now. The next morning, Ila woke up early, feeling restless despite having slept poorly, tossing and turning, waking up, then falling back into uneasy sleep. Imani was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Good morning. Sleep okay? She asked. So. It's all right, Illa replied softly. Today will be a challenging day, but we will get through it. I already phoned work to let them know I will be late. Our plans are to go to the bank as soon as it opens. Illa nodded in understanding. They ate quickly, cheese, sandwiches, and coffee, and then dressed and headed out. The bank opened at 9 o'clock. They arrived 10 minutes early and managed to be the first in line. As the doors opened, Illa approached the clerk and explained their situation. The woman listened carefully, nodded, and directed them to a private office. Please take a seat, she said. A specialist from our fraud team will be with you shortly. A few minutes later, a man in his 40s entered, dressed in a sharp suit and carrying a folder of papers. Hello, my name is Mr. Howard. I am the senior officer in the security department. Please tell me what happened. Illa explained everything clearly and factually, showed him the agreement, and played the voice recording. Mr. Howard listened attentively, taking notes as he went. Understood, he said when Illa finished. This is a serious situation. We will conduct a signature analysis. You will need to provide several samples of your handwriting on different sheets of paper. Additionally, please fill out a statement confirming that the loan was taken without your consent. If the analysis confirms forgery, the loan will be canceled and we will send the case to the police. How long will this take? She asked. The analysis usually takes 5 to 7 business days. We will contact you immediately once we have the results. Illa wrote the statement and signed her name several times on blank sheets for the purpose of the test. Mr. Howard carefully placed everything into a folder. We will be in touch. Don't worry, he assured her. If the signature is indeed forged, and I am confident that it is, the loan will be canceled. Thank you, she responded. They left the bank feeling that the first step had been taken. Now it was time to contact the police. The precinct was about a 10-minute drive away. They arrived, passed through security, and went upstairs to the second floor. The desk officer directed them to a detective's office. The detective, a man in his 50s with a tired face, listened carefully to Illa, examined the documents, and reviewed the recording. Was everything clear? He asked. This case involves felony fraud and document forgery. You should file a report. We will register it and open a case. Your husband will be summoned for questioning. If he is found guilty, he could face probation or jail time, depending on the circumstances. Illa wrote the report following Amani's instructions, including details of who, what, when, and where. She attached a copy of the agreement and provided the audio file. The detective explained that a warrant would be issued within 3 days to open a criminal case. You will be called as the victim to give testimony, and your husband will be questioned as the suspect. All right, when they left the police station, Illa felt a strange sense of relief. Everything was official. Everything was properly documented. Now it was no longer just her word against his. The law was on her side. You did well, Imani said, hugging her sister. You're handling everything just right. Thank you for always being here for me. That evening, as Illa lay on Imani's sofa, Marcus called. She didn't answer. He called again, and once more she blocked his number. An hour later, she received a message from an unfamiliar number. Illa, it's me. Please, let's meet and talk normally. I know I was wrong. I'm ready to make amends and fix everything. Just don't tear our family apart. Illa looked at the screen, then deleted the message and blocked that number as well. Family? What family? He had destroyed it himself. His lies, his betrayal. Now she only needed to move forward. A week passed, feeling like an eternity to Illa. She went to work, trying to focus on her task. But her mind kept drifting back to what had happened. Her colleagues noticed she was distracted, pale, and quiet. Her boss, Miss Lee, stopped by her desk several times to check if everything was all right. Illa responded briefly, yes, just tired, and buried herself in paperwork again. She continued living with Imani because she didn't want to return to the condo. Even the thought of having to see Marcus made her feel sick. Imani didn't mind at all. On the contrary, she said she was glad to have someone company. In the evenings, they sat in the kitchen, drank tea, and talked. Imani shared stories about her job at the travel agency, the bothersome clients, and new tour packages. Illa listened absent-mindedly, thankful for the lively company instead of being alone and silent. One Wednesday, the bank called. Mr. Howard informed her that the analysis was finished. Ms. Vance, we have the results. The signature on the loan agreement is definitely forged. The handwriting expert has confirmed it's not yours. The loan has been canceled, and all accrued interest has been waived. You will not have to repay the funds. Illa exhaled deeply, feeling a heavy burden lift from her shoulders. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have sent all the materials to the police. They will be in touch with you soon. And sure enough, on Thursday evening, the detective called. He introduced himself as Detective Johnson and asked her to come in for questioning the next morning. Illa agreed. On Friday morning, she took a couple of hours of work and drove to the police station. The detective met her in a small office with plain walls, a metal desk, and 2 chairs. He was a young man in his 30s with attentive eyes and a serious look. Please sit down, Miss Vance. Tell me everything step by step. Illa talked for quite a while. The detective asked questions, clarified details, and took notes. Then he listened carefully as she played the recording she had brought. When the recording finished, he said, understood. The picture is clear. Your husband committed fraud, took out a loan in your name without your knowledge, and forged your signature. These are serious criminal offenses, including forgery. We will call him in for questioning, and a summons will be issued today. What kind of penalty could he face? If he admits guilt and agrees to a victim-offender reconciliation, probation may be granted along with an order to pay you restitution for emotional harm. If he refuses, he could face up to 3 years in jail. Considering that this is his first offense and the victim is his spouse, it's likely he will receive probation. Illa nodded. She didn't want Marcus to go to prison. She wasn't seeking revenge. She simply wanted justice and for him to be responsible for his actions. I want to file for divorce, she said. Where should I go? To the county clerk's office if he agrees to the divorce and there are no property disputes. If there are disagreements over property, you'll need to hire a lawyer to go to court. But it's often better to try and settle matters amicably first. After leaving the precinct, Illa went straight to the county clerk's office. She was handed a divorce petition form. Sitting at a table in the hallway, she carefully filled it out, writing each letter by hand. The form read, Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. Reason, irreconcilable differences. The note was brief, straightforward, with no emotion. The clerk, an older woman wearing glasses, explained that if the other spouse agrees, he must also submit his own petition. After that, in about 30 days, they would receive the final decree. If he disagrees, the case must go to court, which would take more time. Illa responded that she would try to reach an agreement with him, although she was not sure Marcus would simply agree. That evening, she decided to send him a message. She unblocked his number and typed a message. Marcus, We need to talk tomorrow at 3 o'clock at the cafe near the park. Please come alone. A few minutes later, she received a reply. Okay, I'll be there. The next day, Ila arrived at the cafe 15 minutes before the planned time. She ordered tea and sat at a table by the window. Her nerves were on edge and her hands trembled. She hadn't seen Marcus in over a week and wasn't sure how she would feel when they finally met again. He arrived right at 3 o'clock. Walking into the cafe, he glanced around, spotted her, and moved toward the table. He looked tired and worn, with a drawn face, dark circles under his eyes, and a wrinkled shirt. He sat down across from her without saying a word. Hi, Ella said softly. Hi, he answered roughly. They sat in silence for a few moments before Marcus spoke. I was called in for questioning. The detective told me a criminal case has been started against me. Fraud and forgery of documents. Ila, I didn't want it to come to this. Honestly, I got lost in debt and didn't see a way out. I believed I could pay the money back quickly and you wouldn't find out. But now I see that I was wrong. Yes, and I understand you're upset. You have every reason to be. But I am asking you, please, let's try to fix this. I am willing to pay you back what I owe. I am willing to settle the debts. I am prepared to do whatever it takes. Just please, don't tear our family apart. Ila looked at him steadily. There was a look of pleading and desperation in her eyes, but the man she once knew seemed no longer to be there. Or maybe he never truly was. Marcus, the family is gone, she said calmly. You are the one who destroyed it. I filed for divorce. I want you to submit your own petition so we can finish this quickly and without going to court. He hesitated. You're serious? He asked. Absolutely, she responded. But Ila, can't you forgive me? Everyone makes mistakes. I'll change, I swear. You didn't make a mistake, Marcus, she replied. You lied to me for months, took out a loan in my name, cheated on me, and even planned to sue for the condo. That's not just a mistake, that's betrayal. He hung his head, fists clenched. And what about the condo? How are we going to split it? She asked. By law, it's a 50-50 split. You can buy my share, or I can buy yours, or we can sell it and divide the money. I don't care which way we go. He shook his head. I can't buy out your share. I don't have the money, then we'll sell it. Marcus nodded without raising his eyes. Okay, I'll file for divorce. When? Tomorrow. The clerk's office will give you the paperwork. He got up, didn't say goodbye, and left the cafe. Ella stayed seated, gazing out the window. It was raining outside. People hurried past, holding umbrellas. Cars splashed through puddles, water spraying everywhere. Life went on. 3 days later, Marcus was called back by the detective. Detective Johnson offered him the option to plead guilty and reach a victim-offender reconciliation agreement with Ela. Marcus agreed. He signed all the necessary papers, admitting he took out the loan without his wife knowing, forged her signature, and agreed to pay Ela $10,000 in restitution. The detective dismissed the criminal case because the parties had reconciled, but Marcus was sentenced to 2 years of probation. This meant that if he committed another crime, within those 2 years, he would go to jail. Layla learned about this from the detective's call. Your husband pleaded guilty and agreed to reconcile. The case is dismissed, but he received probation and must pay you $10,000. The money has to be transferred within 3 months. Thank you, Ela said. She felt no triumph, no malice, only exhaustion and relief that this nightmare was finally over. On Monday, Marcus filed for divorce. A month later, they received their final decree. Ella went alone to the county clerk's office, collected the document, and stepped outside onto the street. The weather was clear, and the sun was breaking through the clouds. She looked at the decree, the seal, the signature, an official sign that her 8-year marriage had come to an end. That evening, her friends Shayla and Nicole, whom she had known since college, invited her to go out. They met at a small restaurant downtown, ordered wine and appetizers. To your freedom, Shayla, with her red hair, cheerful spirit, and always supportive nature, raised her glass. To a new life and to never again getting involved with jerks like that, added Nicole, with a serious and straightforward tone. Illa smiled. For the first time in a long while, she said sincerely. Thank you, girls. I couldn't have made it through without you. You're a rock, Shayla said softly. Not everyone could have pulled themselves together so quickly. I probably would have cried for a week. Illa admitted she did cry, just not in front of everyone. They stayed up late into the night, talking about the past and dreaming about the future. Shayla suggested they all go to the Caribbean that summer. Nicole encouraged her to try yoga or join a gym. You need a change of pace, she advised. Try something new, whether it's a hobby, sports, or some classes. The most important thing is not to dwell on what's gone. Ayla nodded, understanding her friend's advice. She knew they were right. It was time to move forward. She had to start a new life without Marcus, free from the heavy burden that had weighed her down for many years. The condo situation was settled much sooner than expected. They found a buyer through a real estate agent and the sale was completed. Illa received her share, which was $130,000. This was enough to rent a small one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city, leaving her with some funds for the first few months. The move was swift. Anmani helped her gather her belongings and pack boxes. On a Saturday morning, they went to the old condo when Marcus wasn't home. Ila only took her clothes, books, a few photographs, and the dishes she had purchased herself years ago. She left behind everything else. She did not want anything that could remind her of the past. The new apartment was small but welcoming. Its windows looked out onto the courtyard, where old oak trees grew and a children's swing set stood. Ila arranged her belongings, hung curtains, and placed a pot of African violets, a gift from Anmani, on the windowsill. Well, Amani said, glancing around the room, now this is your home, completely yours. Ila embraced her sister warmly. Thank you for everything. Don't mention it. We're family. That evening, after Amani left, Ila was alone. She sat on the sofa, pulled a blanket over her, and simply stared out the window. It was growing darker outside. Lights flickered on in the neighboring houses. Somewhere, children were playing, and a dog barked in the distance. A car passed by quietly. It was calm and peaceful. No one was lying, cheating, or betraying. She took out her phone, opened her notes, and made a list of things she wanted to do. First, sign up for Spanish classes. Second, go to the ocean. Third, find a new hobby. Fourth, learn to trust herself. Then she set the phone aside and closed her eyes. A whole new life stretched out before her. Unfamiliar, sometimes frightening, but also full of promise. It was a life where she would make her own choices, take responsibility for her actions, and create her happiness. And that was a beautiful moment. 3 months had passed since the divorce. Ella was gradually adjusting to her new life, even though it wasn't easy at first. In the mornings, she woke up in her small apartment, brewed coffee in her tiny kitchen, looked out the window at the courtyard with the oak trees, and was always surprised by the peaceful quiet. There was no shouting, no tension, no anxious waiting for her husband to return home, and no more lies he might tell this time. Most of her days still revolved around work. Illa threw herself into her tasks, which helped her avoid thinking about the past. Her colleagues noticed the change. One day, Ms. Lee stopped by during the lunch and sat across from her. Lila, you've changed, she said thoughtfully. You seem calmer, more confident somehow. I don't know how else to describe it. Illa smiled. Maybe she had changed. A lot had happened recently. I'm happy for you. Keep up the good work. Marcus transferred the first installment of the restitution, $3,000. Ella received the transfer notification and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just a simple acknowledgement that the money had arrived. His mistress Tiana vanished soon after everything was revealed. Imani once mentioned seeing Marcus alone at the mall, looking disheveled and with a dull expression in his eyes. Illa didn't ask for any details. She simply didn't care. In early November, Ila enrolled in Spanish classes. She had always wanted to learn the language, but Marcus had discouraged her, claiming it was a waste of time and she wouldn't need it. He told her to stay home and rest instead. Now no one was stopping her. The classes took place 3 times a week in the evenings at a small learning center near her house. The group was small, just 8 adults, each with different reasons for attending. Some wanted to improve for work, others for travel, and some simply for personal growth. The instructor was an energetic woman in her mid-40s with a short haircut and lively eyes. She didn't just focus on grammar, she spoke about culture, different countries, and the people who live in them. The lessons were simple and relaxed. Ela quickly got involved, doing her homework in the evenings, listening to Spanish podcasts on her way to and from work, and watching movies with subtitles. The language felt quite natural to her. She still had her high school knowledge. She just needed to review it and practice more. One day after class, a man in his 40s, tall and wearing glasses with a friendly, calm expression, approached her. "Excuse me, may I ask you a question?" He started. "Do you happen to work in accounting?" Ella was surprised. "Yes, I do. Why?" he asked. "I thought I recognized you." "Maybe I saw you at your office on business," he continued. "I'm Julian Hayes." He offered his hand. "Layla Vance," she replied, shaking his hand. "What was the purpose of your visit?" she asked. "A cooperation agreement. I work for a construction company. We finalized some documents with your team." Illa remembered. Yes, about 3 months ago, a representative from a construction firm had visited. Pleasant and polite, he got straight to the point and handled everything smoothly. "Yes, I remember. It's nice to see you again." They began talking, and it turned out Julian had also gone through a recent divorce. About a year earlier, he was learning Spanish as he planned to travel, dreaming of visiting Europe, the United States, the West Coast, and Asia. He had spent his entire life working hard, building his career, and now he decided it was time to focus on himself. "I understand," Ila said. "I am just starting to do the same for myself, too." They left the center together. It was drizzling and quite cold outside. Julian opened his umbrella. "I can walk you to your bus stop if you'd like. Thank you." They walked under one umbrella, chatting about the class, their plans, and life in general. It felt easy and comfortable. Illa felt she could talk to this man without feeling pressured or having to choose her words carefully. At the bus stop, they bade each other goodbye. Julian smiled. "Maybe we could meet for coffee sometime after class, just to chat with no expectations." Ella thought for a moment, then nodded. "Why not?" They began to meet after class, not every time, but often enough. They went to a cafe, talked, and sometimes simply strolled through the city at night. Julian shared about his work, building houses, and how he hoped to create something meaningful. He also mentioned how his marriage had quietly ended without any scandal. They gradually realized they were no longer right for each other. "My wife and I were together for 15 years," he said. "They were good years, honestly, but eventually we saw that we had become strangers. We divorced peacefully and stayed friendly. No children, so there was no trauma for anyone." Ila listened and understood that sometimes things happen that way. Divorce isn't always about drama, betrayal, or scandal. Sometimes people simply go their separate ways, recognizing that their lives have diverged. Julian was patient, not rushing her. He didn't press her with questions or try to become close too quickly. He simply stayed nearby, calm, dependable, respectful. Ila felt safe with him. One chilly, clear evening in late November, they were walking along the riverbank. The river was coated with a thin layer of ice, and streetlights reflected softly on the water. Julian paused and looked at her. "Illa, I know you're being careful, and I'm not rushing anything, but I want you to know that I really enjoy spending time with you. You're a fascinating person, and I'd like to get to know you better, if you're willing, of course." Ella looked into his honest, open face and suddenly realized she wanted that too. She wanted to trust again, to open up to someone once more, gradually, cautiously, step by step. "I'm open to it," she said. "Just let's take things slowly. I need time." Julian nodded with a gentle smile. "As much time as you need. We have all the time in the world." December brought the first snowfall. Illa refurbished her apartment, repainting the walls with a soft beige shade, changing the curtains, and purchasing a new sofa. The space was completely renewed. It felt truly like her own. For New Year's, she went to a Manny's. They celebrated together, just the two of them, with her sister's sweet potato pie, sparkling cider, and old holiday movies playing on TV. It was warm, comfortable, and full of family feeling. "So, are you ready to reflect on the year?" Amani asked as the clock struck midnight. Hilla confessed it had been a difficult year, but she was grateful for it. She had learned a lot, like never to give control of your life to someone else. She also realized that love isn't about sacrifice, but about working together. And sometimes you need to be a little selfish to protect yourself. Amani raised her glass. To you, to your strength, to what's ahead. To us, Illa corrected. They clinked their glasses. In January, Marcus sent the second part of the restitution payment. Illa put the money into her savings account and decided to set aside funds for a future trip. Shayla suggested they spend that summer in the Caribbean with the sun, sea, and tropical drinks. Illa agreed without hesitation. The Spanish classes were almost over, and the instructor had handed out certificates to everyone for completing the basic level, encouraging them to continue practicing. You all did great, she said during the final session. The most important thing is not to give up. You need to practice a language regularly or you'll forget everything, the instructor added. Illa made a promise to herself that she wouldn't give up, and she signed up for the next level, which was set to begin in March. She and Julian kept seeing each other, now more often than before. They went to the movies, the theater, and museums. Julian also introduced her to classical music, taking her to the Philharmonic. Ila was opening up to new worlds she had never thought about before. One day in February, they were sitting in Julian's car after a concert. Outside, large snowflakes fell softly, blanketing the city in white. Julian turned to Ila. Ila, I understand you're being cautious, and I'm not trying to pressure you, but I want you to know I am content with you. Very content. And I am willing to wait as long as it takes. Ella took his hand. I'm happy with you too, Julian, and I'm willing to give it a try. Step by step, but I want to try. He smiled, leaned in, and gently kissed her with kindness and respect. Ela responded, and in that moment she realized she had finally let go of the past. Spring arrived earlier than expected. In March, the snow melted away, revealing the first signs of green. The air smelled fresh and warm with the thawed earth. Illa began going to the gym. Nicole had encouraged her to join fitness classes. Now they were running on the treadmills together 3 times a week, working up a sweat. Marcus sent the last payment of the restitution, the full $10,000. Illa saw the notification and exhaled peacefully. That chapter was finally closed. She never regretted her choice, never looked back with longing or remorse. Only now and then, very rarely, she reflected on those 8 years as a valuable lesson, an important reminder that you should not lose yourself in a relationship, that love is not about sacrifice, but about partnership, and that trust must be mutual, not blind. In April, Julian suggested they take a weekend trip to a nearby city. There, an exhibition of contemporary art was opening. Ila agreed. They drove in his car, stayed at a cozy boutique hotel, wandered through unfamiliar streets, admired paintings, and discussed the meaning of abstract art. That evening, they sat at a restaurant by the water. Julian ordered wine, and they quietly watched the sunset over the water. You know, Ela began, a year ago, I wouldn't have believed I'd be here now, happy, trusting again. And now I realize that life moves forward, that after every ending, there's always a new beginning. Julian gently took her hand. I'm glad we met. She nodded and responded, Me too. They returned to the city late on Sunday evening. Julian accompanied Illa to her door and kissed her goodnight. I'll see you this week, for sure. Illa entered her apartment without clothes on, prepared some tea, and settled by the window. Outside, the spring evening grew darker. Somewhere, cats were crying, and cars hurried past. It was just an ordinary city life. But for Illa, it felt like a new beginning, a life she was creating herself, with her own choices, a life free of lies, betrayal, or fear. Only her decision, her freedom. She took out her phone, opened her notes, and added a new item to her list. Number 5, learn to be happy. Then she smiled and put her phone away.